Hey, I'm Laura. Just quickly, we here at GRITtv are proud to bring you independently produced content every day. Now it's your chance to help us. GRITtv has been offered a $100,000 challenge grant. Every dollar you give right now between now and June 30th is worth $3 to us. We've only got a few more weeks to meet the match. Will you help? You can donate at our website, GRITtv.org. Meanwhile, enjoy this clip.
Despite all the naysayers in Washington, who are always looking for the cloud in every silver lining, the fact is our economy is growing again. Last month we gained 290,000 jobs. So think about this. We gained more jobs last month than any time in 4 years. And it was the fourth month in a row that we've added jobs. And almost all of those jobs are in the private sector. Everybody talks about the government was doing this, government was doing that. No, what we did was we encouraged the private sector, gave them the funding, the financing, the support, the infrastructure support in order to invest and get the economy moving again.
So is the economy moving again? Somebody who knows a lot about people moving again is Bhairavi Desai with the Taxi Workers Alliance. Welcome back to GRITtv.
Thank you.
Now, I know you were at the White House or in Washington very recently meeting with the Labor Department, to that in a minute, but you and your members really have your eyes and ears and feet to the ground. Talk about what you're seeing. Do you feel like there's a recovery in the works?
I mean, from our experience, ridership is still pretty much down. You still see that people are really struggling to find work. And I think even if there is a growth in a private sector, the question here is what aspect of the private sector? Is it in the healthcare industry? Is it in education? Is it in social services? Is it in the nonprofit sector, which actually has been one of the hardest hit sectors throughout this economic recession? We don't see growth in those areas.
Your members are mostly private sector workers. They work for taxi companies of different kinds. What were the worst effects on them, or what did they go through during these last few years? How did it show itself?
Well, you know, I tell you, there are a couple of factors. One is you go to a taxi garage, you can't get a job. There are so many drivers lined up. We've seen an historic high number of licensees on the streets in New York City today. Just a couple of years ago, the number of licenses would tap off at about 40,000. We're now at close to 50,000. That's people that have been unemployed and have lost their jobs and are now trying to get into the taxi industry. So that means that the drivers who've been veterans, you know, they're getting pushed out of the industry while new people are coming in because we have no job security in our industry. And I think that we really represent a large segment of the American economy, which is workers who don't have job security, are not considered traditional employees, and so they really have no means to either keep their jobs or to really bargain for higher incomes.
What about on the political level? The administration's supporters say we've done a lot. We passed healthcare reform, we passed a stimulus package, a banking bill's in the works. We've done a lot, but it doesn't seem to be connecting. What do your members think these days of this so-called Obama brand?
Well, I mean, I think that one is people are still waiting for the effects of these different things that have been passed. But I think secondly, there's a lot of, anger and confusion that, well, why isn't there more of an investment in public programs, for example? Building schools can also create jobs. It's not, how many hospitals in New York City, we're seeing St. Vincent shut down. This is a major hospital. Where is the investment in segments like this in our society?
I'm assuming these are some of the things you raised when you did go to the White House for a meeting with the Labor Department just this week. What was that like? And how significant is it that a group like yours that's not a formal union was invited to participate in those meetings?
I think it was significant. I mean, I think that this is an administration that I think wants to do the right thing, right? And they're kind of trying to line themselves up, to really do things properly. But again, the question is, where will the effectiveness be? I think it was significant that the Department of Labor actually brought in those of us that represent workers that are not employees. So we're actually not really under their jurisdiction. And so the conversation with them really became, what do you do with the fastest growing segment of the American workforce, which is non-employees, those in the so-called underground economy? Those are, lease workers, contract workers, temp workers. All of us are not protected by the national labor laws. Yet we are facing a time where you have less job security, more fear of retaliation. You see incomes coming down. You see healthcare being cut. You see workers being deprived of the fundamental right to collective bargaining and unionization. And so what is this Department of Labor going to do about that?
What about security? I know that you've testified recently in New York at the Taxi Commission about the security of your members. We're going to talk in a minute about how insecure a lot of people, immigrants and non-immigrants, feel right now in Arizona around the country. Mm-hmm. Many of your members are also immigrants. Mm-hmm. What is their level of security alert, would you say, at this point?
Taxi drivers, the profession has always been one of the most dangerous in the country. Time and again, we rank within the top 10. And the most recent Department of Labor study found that drivers are 30 times more likely to be killed on the job than other workers. But, all this has to be contextualized by the fact that we are 94% immigrant. We are one of the most visible Muslim workforces, certainly in this city, if not in this entire country. And so when you have like a Faisal Shahzad story, for example, or you hear about the drones in Pakistan and the constant discussions about kind of we're the new evil people on earth, that has an impact. When drivers are asked, we had a member recently, Jangbir Singh, who was assaulted with a metal pipe. His private motorist who broke the window and then practically broke Mr. Singh's hand. And the first thing he said to him was, "Go back to your effing country, you terrorist." And so or Pakistani drivers who feel incredibly insecure by questions about, where are you from? What do you really feel about this country?
Is that anything the government can address, or is that just a matter of personal attitudes?
No, bigotry and ignorance trickle down, unlike wealth. These are the things that trickle down. And I think that the environment that's created very much comes from the top. Certainly this administration has been much more tempered than, there's no comparison with the last one, let's face it. But I still think at the local level, a lot more has to be done by the mayor's office.
And perhaps by Washington, too.
Absolutely.
Bhairavi Desai, thank you so much for joining us. Bhairavi is with the New York Taxi Workers Alliance. They have allies all around the world. You can get more information about the group at our website. That's GRITtv.org.